So when the Me Too movement came up last year, I remember reading through my news feed the day that it all happened and just thinking, well, here we fucking go. So a couple weeks ago, Ariana Huffington, so the owner of Huffington Post, posted 3 times as many male managers are now uncomfortable mentoring women in the wake of the Me Too movement. This is a huge step in the wrong direction. We need more men to #mentor her. The more important thing in this to me is mentor her. Really? Again, we are hijacking social issues to make them about women. Now, it really comes as no surprise that the PC brigade hasn't really caught up to the idea yet that women in the workplace are a liability. Now, it's probably not very fair, people probably get very upset about it, but the reality is, it's actually the truth of the matter. Further, I am completely unsurprised that men are uncomfortable to be around women in the workplace. That's not surprising in any capacity. Why? Well, the first thing is that these movements, the Me Too movement, this push for a gynocentric workplace has really just created a framework that's basically impossible for people to work within. I mean, the main thing that I can see is that it's allowed victimhood and anxiety and stress to overtake normal social interaction, in addition to oversensitivity, but that's nothing new with the feminists. Yes, men and women work side by side, which is basically inevitable in a society where there are 2 genders, specifically 2, not more than that, just 2. The bigger issue is that these non-sexual harassment frameworks stretch so far and cover so many areas and are so ambiguous that it's hard to know when someone's going to get offended, someone's going to feel a particular way, and they're going to do something about it, whether or not they're actually in the right to do that. So I jumped on the Human Rights Commission website and went to the area that details what sexual harassment is in Australia. And there's a handful of them that I can reconcile, I can understand why it's on the list. But then there's a handful of them that I really don't understand. Staring or leering, intrusive questions or statements about your private life, and displaying posters, magazines, and screensavers of a sexual nature. The problem is that these terms are really ambiguous. How long does someone have to stare at someone else for that to be considered sexual harassment? Is it 4 seconds and then a woman gets offended and she can suddenly do something about it? Statements about your personal life? Like what? He asked me about my childhood. I think the reality is that it just sets up a workplace scenario where nobody wins. Having to consider every single social interaction you have with another person for fear of them misconstruing your actions, I don't think that's social progress. I think that's social regression. I think there's a massive difference between protecting women in the workplace and then also making them into social pariahs. This constant and ongoing push for not only equality but also for protection, particularly for females, it doesn't really help social interaction between men and women. What it does is make the whole thing a pretty oversensitive affair. It erodes respect, it creates a culture of hesitancy, and it also puts a lot of emphasis on social interaction where there was none there before. It makes it virtually impossible to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody of the opposite sex without fearing that it's going to come back and be something to do with sexual harassment. I just felt so harassed. He asked me to dinner and I said no, but he full insisted. No, he's your boss, and it's the annual sales meeting, and the only food that's going to be there are sandwiches. Oh, wow, he stared at me for way too long anyway. I think that all of this runs entirely contrary to this whole I am woman, hear me roar thing that's been adopted by the feminist movement, which is kind of not surprising in any capacity because most of third wave feminism is built upon victimhood. I find it really sad that in a lot of ways, women are a liability in the workplace. Men lose their jobs regularly because of false allegations or unproven allegations or things that simply don't have any evidence to back them up. And what we've basically said is that we don't care about due process. We don't care about innocent till proven guilty because every single person that's accused of this stuff is stamped guilty and thrown away. And that's basically how we deal with these situations. Really, you just get fired. The worst part is that often when these allegations turn out to be false, there's no repercussions. No women lose their jobs over it. Oh, we just ruined the man's life, but that's absolutely fine, just as long as the woman wasn't really sexually assaulted. So I guess the reality is that when you create a society and a workplace that encourages victimhood, you just have people looking for reasons to be a victim.